Okay, guys, I'm here. I'm live, but I'm by myself. Let me see if I can make a link so I can share this with you guys. Okay, hold on just a second as I post this in the background. Mhm. Okay, here we go. And let me post it in one other place. And the Boyettes, and I don't know who else is here today. Okay, there's Tess. Yay! Okay, let's see. Okay, well, I was really excited. Yes, I have. Oh, there's Claire. Yay! I guess I have some exciting internet nonsense going on anytime it rains, which is like all the time. I hope everybody had a really good weekend. I have here Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and we're gonna jump in. We're gonna jump in. All right, give me 2 seconds. Let me just check something over here. Let's see, here we go. Okay. All right. So when we left off, we had Father William right here being goofy. This is the poem that the caterpillar, the caterpillar was making Alice recite to prove, who she is. And I think that we were at the very last stanza. We might have already read it, but I'm going to read it again because I love it so much. So here's the last 2 stanzas. The young guy says to his dad, "You are old," said the youth. "One would, and that is enough," said his father. "Don't give yourself airs. Do you think I can listen all day to such stuff? Be off, or I'll kick you downstairs." So the best part about that is that we never actually find out how he's balancing the eel on his nose. It just happens. So that is not said right, said the caterpillar. "Well, not quite right, I'm afraid," said Alice timidly. "Some of the words have got altered." There are several times that Lewis Carroll puts in like an awkward silence where everybody just kind of stares at each other. So they had an awkward silence with the little animals after the Pool of Tears, and now they have an awkward silence because Alice can't say her poem right. I also like that the caterpillar was the first to speak. "What size do you want to be?" it asked. "Oh, I'm not particular as to size," Alice replied hastily. "Only one doesn't like changing so often, you know." "I don't know," said the caterpillar. Alice said nothing. She had never been so much contradicted in all of her life before, and she felt that she was losing her temper. "Are you content now?" said the caterpillar. "Well, I should like to be a little larger, sir, if you wouldn't mind," said Alice. 3 inches is such a wretched height to be." "It's a very good height indeed," said the caterpillar angrily, rearing itself upright as it spoke. It was exactly 3 inches high. "But I'm not used to it," pleaded poor Alice in a piteous tone, and she thought to herself, "I wish the creatures wouldn't be so easily offended." I want you to notice that Alice is the master of the non-apology. She kind of apologizes for offending people and like hurting their feelings, but not really. This is sort of an impact versus intent situation. She doesn't think about other people's feelings, right? Like the caterpillar is 3 inches, and she's like really insensitive, like, "Oh, 3 inches is like such a terrible height," and she's not actually sorry. She's just sorry that it's offended. So we should not apologize like Alice. Whenever we hurt people's feelings, we should just say we're sorry, or be a little bit more sincere and also be more sensitive. That's all I'm saying. Until it chose to speak again. In a minute or two, the caterpillar took the hookah out of its mouth and yawned once or twice and shook itself. Then it got down off the mushroom and crawled away into the grass, merely remarking as it went, "One side will make you grow taller, the other side will make you grow shorter." One side of what? The other side of what? Thought Alice to herself. Alice remained looking thoughtfully at the mushroom for a minute, trying to make out which were the two sides of it, as it was perfectly round. And she found this a very difficult question. However, at last, she stretched her arms around it as far as they would go and broke off a bit of the edge with each hand. So this is like slightly mathematical thinking, right? If something is perfectly round, how are you supposed to know which is the left side and which is the right side? And also, I think it's important to bring this up again. Do you guys remember what I said last week about mushrooms in your backyard might kill you if you eat the wrong one? So never, ever, ever eat mushrooms that are grown outside unless you are with somebody who is like a huge, huge, huge expert in mushrooms. I'm pretty sure that has a name. Mushroom expert? Something-ologist, but I don't remember what it is. Anyway. And now, which is which, she said to herself, and nibbled a little bit of the right bit to try the effect. The next moment, she felt a violent blow underneath her chin. It had struck her foot. She was a good deal frightened by this sudden change, but she felt that there was no time to be lost as she was shrinking rapidly. So she set to work at once to eat some of the other bit. Her chin was pressed so closely against her foot that there was hardly any room to open her mouth, but she did it at last and managed to swallow a morsel of the left-hand bit. Morsel is a great word. Morsel just means bite. My head's free at last, said Alice. Okay, Tess is saying that her mama says the person who is an expert on mushrooms is a mycologist. That's a great word. There is no illustration by the illustrator John Tenniel, which is such a shame because what's being described is so weird. Times when she gets smaller, she's just like in proportion to herself. But other times when she gets bigger or smaller, it's not all of her at the same time. So when it says that like her chin hits her feet, that means that she's not shrinking. And do you remember this at the very, very beginning when she had the giant neck, right? So she kind of stretched out like this. Well, this is like 10 times that. Like she's gotten bigger, but it's almost all in her neck. And her neck is like prehensile and it can kind of move around like that. Can you imagine if your neck was like, oh, long neck, Alice? What can all that green stuff be, said Alice, and where have my shoulders got to? And oh, my poor hands, how is it I can't see you? She was moving them about as she spoke, but no result seemed to follow, except a little shaking among the distant green leaves. As there seemed to be no chance of getting her hands up to her head, she tried to get her head down to them and was delighted to find that her curving it down into a graceful zigzag and was about to dive in among the leaves when she found to be nothing but the tops of the trees under which she had been wandering, when a sharp hiss made her draw back in a hurry. A large pigeon had flown into her face and was beating her violently with its wings. "Serpent!" screamed the pigeon. "I'm not a serpent," said Alice indignantly. "Let me alone. Nothing seems to suit them." "I haven't the least idea what you're talking about," said Alice. "Well, I've tried the roots of trees, and I've tried banks, and I've tried hedges," the pigeon went on without attending to her. "But those serpents, there's no pleasing them." Alice was more and more puzzled, but she thought there was no use in saying anything more till the pigeon had finished. As if it wasn't trouble enough hatching the egg, said the pigeon. I can't tell if you're typing or thinking or just being quiet. But anyway, this poor pigeon, it's a pigeon parent. And it's really worried that snakes are going to get into the nest and eat its little tiny that can move like that, sort of prehensile, is a snake. And they're about to do a whole bunch of syllogisms. Oh, is the chat disconnecting? I'm sorry, guys. Syllogisms are really hard to explain without a board, but we talked about them really early on. So syllogism is the logic puzzle that Aristotle did. Remember, all men are mortal. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is a mortal. And then the other one that it did was when Alice was trying to figure out if she was her friend Mabel. Alice was more and more puzzled, but and just as I had taken the highest tree in the wood, continued the pigeon, raising its voice to a shriek, and just as I was thinking, I should be free of them at last, but they must needs come wriggling down from the sky. Ugh, serpent. But I'm not a serpent, I tell you, said Alice. Well, what are you, said the pigeon. I changes she had gone through that day. A likely story indeed, said the pigeon, in a tone of the deepest contempt. I've seen a good many little girls in my time, but never one with such a neck as that. No. So arguably that's the first one, right? No, not really. I'm just going to continue on. I have tasted eggs, certainly, said Alice, who was a very truthful child. But little girls eat eggs just as much as serpents do, you know. I don't believe it, said the pigeon. But if they do, why then they're a kind of serpent. That's all I can say. So that is definitely a syllogism. Snakes eat eggs. Little girls eat snakes. Therefore, little girls must be snakes. So there's some probably you're a serpent, you're a snake. This was such a new idea to Alice that she was quite silent for a minute or two, which gave the pigeon the opportunity of adding, well, you're looking for eggs. I know that well enough. But what does it matter to me whether you're a little girl or a serpent? Well, it matters a great deal to me, said Alice hastily, but I'm not looking for eggs as it. And every now and then she had to stop and untwist it. After a while, she remembered that she still held the pieces of mushroom in her hands, and she set to work very carefully, nibbling first at one and then the other, sometimes growing taller, sometimes growing shorter, until she had succeeded in bringing herself down to her usual height. It was so long since half my plan done now. How puzzling all these changes are. I'm never sure what I'm going to be from one minute to another. However, I've got back to my right size. And the next thing is to get into those beautiful gardens. How is that to be done, I wonder? And as she said this, she came suddenly upon an open place with a little house in it about 4 feet high. Whoever lives there, thought Alice, it would never do to come upon them this size. Why, I should frighten them out of their wits. So she began nibbling at the right-hand bit again and did not venture to go near the house till she had brought herself down to 9 inches high. So, number one, okay, Tess is pushing back against this syllogism, and she's saying, well, little girls eat chicken eggs, which are not pigeon eggs, but it still means, Tess, that if you ever eat a pigeon egg, then you're a snake. And another thing is, once upon a time, I used to make kids do math problems here. So if the house is 4 feet high that she's going to go into, and Alice is 9 inches tall, what is that ratio in comparison to you and your house? Like, I'm 5 feet 3 inches high, and I wonder how tall my house is. So is that the same or different than, little 9-inch Alice going into this big 4-foot house? So that is the end of that chapter. The next chapter is probably of this frog and then this fish. Yes, look at it. Look at it. Don't you wish that you could put your fish into little outfits like that, just like you can put dogs? So I think that is it for Alice. Yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow. Be good. Eat your fruits and vegetables. Be nice to your parents, etc. Bye, guys.